What's up, guys? This is Jay Griff. Welcome back to the Dark Souls 2 Blog of Pain, as I've taken to calling it, episode 3. Uh, Today, I've been playing a whole lot of this game, and wanted to talk about my evolving opinions of what's really going on in this game world of Dark Souls 2. The biggest thing I want to say about Dark Souls 2 is that its atmosphere is really growing on me. It really captures that essence of a world in decay that's just grasping at what very little is left of its world. Um, the area that it turns out that I was correct in the past episode. I was correct. I had wandered into the completely wrong area. So I found my way into the other area. It was actually rather amusing because I went back and talked to an NPC again and discovered he had in fact another line of dialogue, and he was like, "If you go this way, you'll end up in the forest of the whatever." And I was like, "Oh, son of a bitch! There was a guy sitting right here the whole time who was telling me, hey, go this way." And then his exact next words were, "Do not go into the area that I was in because it's very perilous." And I was like, "Yeah, no shit." But I got a kick out of that. Uh, but uh, but the whole area I'm in is it's like the ruins of an old castle. Um, and all the soldiers walking around are hollow. They're undead. They're cursed, just like me, except they've completely lost their minds already. Um, and the damage to the castle that's been done is all reminiscent of the war that I guess they had with the giants. That some of the NPCs have alluded to that I guess happened at one point. The giants, they were basically the higher races of Lordran way back in like even the times before Dark Souls 1. And that's why Anor Londo that I mentioned before was guarded by giant knights, because the lords, the ancient lords as they were giants. All of the gods were way bigger than normal humans. Guinevere, Gwyn, uh, presumably presumably Gwendolyn, but he was kind of scrawny. Um, some of the gods you don't get to see, the Grave Lord, Seath the Scaleless. All the lords were really big. So at some point, I guess things went south because it's basically been established that Dark Souls 2 is happening well after the time of Dark Souls 1. So I guess what was left of the giants and the humans got in some sort of a war. And at one point, I turn a corner and I found what I think was the corpse of a giant, and it had just been like left there after it got killed, I guess, because its body was full of old rusted weapons, and it had been there so long that a tree had actually started growing around it and had locked it in place. And it's kind of just a symbol of how even there was no clear winner of that conflict. It looks like both the giants and humanity lost in that, and that's making me wonder. What happened with this war between the humans and the giants? What set it off, and how did it really end? Because I mean, the castle's fucked up. So just because it's full of hollows doesn't mean that the humans won. You know, at least until you get to the boss, which I'll talk about in a minute. Uh, Another big thing that I'm noticing, because I'm playing it on console now and not on the PC, which is where I had to play Dark Souls 1 and it had games for Windows Live, which sucked ass and never worked, is that the multiplayer aspect of the world is very active. Uh, Players can leave each other messages on the ground with a pre-scripted, stuff. They don't have the freedom to say whatever the hell they want but they can choose from predetermined phrases and such to try to either give people hints as to what they need to do or that something might happen, or to troll people and get them to do something stupid. But there's so many messages all over the damn place. It's it's kind of ridiculous, but I find it very interesting that I can walk into an area, and even as I myself am assessing it, and I'm looking around, I'm trying to see, because I'm very cautious from my time playing Dark Souls, that I'm looking around for traps, I'm looking around for enemies that are maybe hiding somewhere, and now there's the dynamic of enemies that literally lay on the ground and play dead and don't get up until you walk past them and try to hit you in the back. And that's dangerous. But now there's all these messages laying around, and I get to read these messages, and if they're useful, you can actually rate them. And when a message gets rated, the person in their world, as they're playing, they actually receive a free instant heal to their character for leaving a useful message that another player said, hey, this was helpful to me. And that's not something I experienced in Dark Souls 1. All the messages that I saw in Dark Souls 1 were left by the developers. So they were pointless. They were like, press this button to do a gesture, and press circle to roll. They were stupid. Also, being able to summon phantoms into my world. Friendly players who are summoned as allies to me. That is something that's really, really cool. You can only do it if you're in human form, and I have fucking so few human effigies and die so goddamn much that I'm back to where I was at Dark Souls 1, where I'm like, I got barely any humanity, man. I can't waste it. I can't fucking waste this stuff. I'm not gonna get any more. And I don't know where the rest of it is, because I'm doing this blind, and it makes it so exciting. But like when I am in human form and I come across like a soapstone mark that a player has left on the ground, it's like I can summon somebody. And you can actually summon two people at a time if you want to. You can have two phantom buddies who have like a certain amount of time, and their health slowly decreases over time, and they die faster the more enemies they kill. But still, now it's you and some buddies in what Solaire called jolly cooperation against the game world, and it's really cool. It's a really liberating feeling. The first time that I got to summon in another player, just a random person from somewhere on the other end of the spectrum of Dark Souls, and he came in and his character did a bow and was like, "Hey, let's fucking go!" And we fucking tore a path through the area, and then I ended up falling to my death because it turns out fall damage in Dark Souls 2 has been jacked way the hell up from where it was at Dark Souls 1. I looked at it fall and I said, yeah, I can totally make this fall, and I can do a sweet diving attack on this guy. And so I went to do it, and the result was I hit the ground, my attack connected, the enemy died, and so did I. I was like, oh. Well, that's different. So that's part of the trial by fire, I guess. I can't even be mad about situations like that because I chose to take the risk to jump off and kill this guy. And it is what it is. So that's another thing that's different. Also I found the first boss tonight. I found the first mini boss tonight, who beat my fucking ass. He destroyed me, and then he fucked off. I guess you only get one chance to fight him or something because he didn't come back. He's gone now, so whatever. But the first boss of the game is really cool. He's called the Last Giant, and I think he's undead or something. He has to be undead because he's all kinds of rotted, and his face is completely caved in, and it's just like a hole. There's nothing there. And he's like impaled on a column, and if you look at his arms and his legs, he's got like shackles that have long since rusted away, and like the chains have broken off, but the shackles are still there. So you can tell at one time this guy was chained up. So it seems like the humans actually did end up winning the war against the giants, and they chained this one up down where the boss room is. and he's a fairly decent boss fight. He's sufficiently powerful for the first boss because he beat me several times. Um, but that leads me back, unfortunately, to what I was saying before, which is that the hit detection really doesn't feel like it's there, and that really reared its head in this boss fight because he's really really big, he's really really slow, and you're basically chomping at his ankles because that's all you can reach. And whenever he would lift his foot up, like his tail is really long and obvious, and he'd start lifting his foot up, and I'd start rolling away, and his foot would come down, and I'd be in the middle of the roll animation and just fly across the room. And I'm like, fucking seriously? You can hit me from that far away, and, maybe there's a little bit of an area of effect on it, and that's what's catching me, but like I tried to stand close to it once with just my shield up, and his foot landed. If my shield's here, his foot landed about here, and I was like, okay, that's a miss. And I was expecting to maybe be blown back, maybe have my shield thrown out from the shockwave. No, what happened was my character face planted as though the foot landed here on his fucking head, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And it didn't blow through my shield, like my stamina didn't blast through. It bypassed my shield. It just straight up stepped on me, and I died immediately. It was a one hit kill. But I was cursed at the time, so I had half my health. So who knows if I could have actually taken it had I been at proper health. But the point is, I took the full damage as though he had stepped on my face when he stepped out ahead of me. So the most that should have happened was maybe from the shockwave I should have been thrown back. So, yeah. The dodging in that boss particularly felt really fucking slow and really goddamn delayed. And it could be that the frame rate was actually dropping in that room because everything felt really slow while I was in there fighting him. I was like, why is it so slow walking around this damn boss room? So maybe there was a little bit of that going on. I summoned another phantom to help me once I had, reversed my humanity again and gotten rid of the curse. And he did a pretty decent job. He could take a lot more damage than me, but he didn't deal damage for shit. And he ended up getting stepped on a shit ton, and then I got stepped on and I died again. So I ended up going back in there like 2, 3 more times just by myself as an undead, all cursed and shit. Eventually, I figured out his pattern well enough to wear him down and survive. But, it was a really hard boss fight, and I feel like if the collision detection had been more spot on than it was, it would have been a really great first boss fight. That, and if it didn't feel so damn slow in there. So maybe they needed to tighten up the frame rate, I don't know. But, a good boss. Not amazing. It doesn't wow me the same way the Asylum and the Taurus Demon did from Dark Souls 1, but again, I've already played Dark Souls 1, so I'm walking in with that kind of expectation. So I don't know. I feel like it would have been way easier if I had some sort of ranged attack, but as a cleric, I don't have shit. I have some extra heals, which in battle they take so long to cast, they're utterly worthless. They're a recipe for death if you try to use them there. But it was pretty good. And the bottom line is, I'm hooked. I'm hooked into this game now. It's got me. It's got its claws in. I want to go back for more. I want to see what's next. I want to find out what's going on. What was this war with the giants? Why does the next area look like Anor Londo if Anor Londo got destroyed? It really looks like Anor Londo. And I'm really starting to think, maybe those knights reminded me so much of the knights from Anor Londo. Because they are the knights from Anor Londo. And there's some Time Warp bullshit going on here where Anor Londo got fucking destroyed after the humans counterattacked and went after it. I don't know. It's really hard to tell where anything is with however much time has supposedly passed between now and then, and no one's mentioned we're supposed to be in Lordran, so that I might be completely off in left field with that. But that's what it seems to be, at least. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to getting more of this game under my belt and seeing more of what it has to offer. And hopefully it locks that frame rate in and the collision detection down. Otherwise, this won't be the last time you hear about it. So, this has been Jay Griff. Thanks for listening, guys.